It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon at the International Space Station, ISS. Commander Sarah Chen was floating in the observation module, sipping her morning coffee from a special zero-gravity cup. She gazed out at the vast expanse of space, admiring Earth's blue and green beauty below. Suddenly, a loud beeping noise echoed through the station. Sarah nearly spilled her coffee as she rushed to the main control panel. The screen flashed with an urgent message. Unknown signal detected. "Johnson, get in here," Sarah called out to her communications officer. Lieutenant Mark Johnson floated in quickly, his eyes widening at the flashing alert. "What's going on, Commander?" "We've picked up something strange. Can you make sense of it?" Sarah asked, moving aside to let Mark access the controls. Mark's fingers flew over the keyboard as he analyzed the incoming data, his brow furrowed in concentration. This is not one of ours, Commander. The signal pattern is like nothing I've ever seen before." Sarah's heart raced. Could this be it? The moment humanity had been waiting for? "Are you saying what I think you're saying, Johnson?" Mark nodded slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. I think we're receiving a message from aliens." The news spread like wildfire. Within hours, every major space agency on Earth was alerted. Scientists from NASA, ESA, Roscosmos, and CNSA worked around the clock to decipher the mysterious signal. Dr. Aisha Patel, the lead sinolinguist at NASA, hadn't slept in 48 hours. Her eyes were red-rimmed as she stared at her computer screen, running algorithm after algorithm. Suddenly, she jumped up from her chair. "I've got it," she shouted, startling her colleagues. It's a distress call." The room erupted in a mix of excitement and concern. Dr. Patel quickly explained her findings to the team and top government officials who had gathered at Mission Control. "The message is from an alien fleet," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. "They're stranded in space, far from their home planet. Their fuel is almost depleted, and they're running low on essential resources." The UN Security Council convened an emergency meeting. World leaders debated furiously about how to respond. Some argued for caution, fearing it might be a trap. Others pushed for immediate action, seeing it as humanity's chance to prove itself on the galactic stage. Meanwhile, social media exploded with the news. #AlienSo trended worldwide. People from all walks of life shared their opinions, fears, and hopes about the situation. Back at the ISS, Commander Chen received a direct call from the UN Secretary-General. "Commander, we need your eyes and ears up there. Any changes in the signal, anything at all, you report directly to us." "Understood." "Yes, Mom," Sarah replied, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. As days passed, more details emerged. The alien fleet consisted of 5 massive ships, each carrying thousands of beings. They had been on a long-term exploration mission when their propulsion systems failed. Now they were drifting in space, their fate hanging in the balance. Dr. James Wong, a renowned astrophysicist, presented his findings to the UN panel. "Based on the signal's origin, we've pinpointed their location. They're about 2.5 light-years away from Earth, in a region of space we call the Oort cloud." The revelation sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Never before had humanity attempted a rescue mission at such a distance. As debates raged on Earth, the alien situation grew more desperate. Their latest transmission, decoded by Dr. Patel's team, painted a grim picture. Their life support systems were failing. They had weeks, maybe months, before the situation became critical. The pressure on world leaders intensified. Protests erupted in major cities, with people demanding action. Signs reading, "Save our space neighbors," and "Humanity, show your worth," filled the streets. Finally, after a week of intense discussions, the UN reached a decision. The Secretary-General addressed the world in a historic broadcast. "People of Earth," she began, her voice firm and resolute, "we face a moment that will define our species for generations to come. An alien civilization advanced enough for interstellar travel, now turns to us in their hour of need. The choice before us is clear. Do we turn our backs on them, or do we extend a helping hand across the cosmic ocean? She paused, letting her words sink in. Then, with a determined smile, she continued, I am proud to announce that humanity has chosen compassion. We will launch a rescue mission to save the stranded alien fleet. The announcement was met with thunderous applause and cheers around the globe. Humanity had made its choice. Now they faced the monumental task of mounting the greatest rescue mission in the history of the species. The race against time had begun, and the whole world watched with bated breath. The United Nations headquarters in New York was buzzing with activity. World leaders from every country had gathered for an emergency meeting. The Grand Assembly Hall was packed, with tension thick in the air. UN Secretary-General Amina Okafor stood at the podium, her face grave. Ladies and gentlemen, we face a decision that will shape the future of our species. The alien fleet needs our help. We must decide. Do we answer their call? The room erupted into heated debate. Some leaders argued fiercely against the mission. It's too risky, shouted the Russian president. How do we know it's not a trap? The Chinese premier nodded in agreement. We barely have the technology to reach them. It could bankrupt our nations. Others were more supportive. The Indian Prime Minister stood up, her voice firm. If we turn our backs on them, what does that say about us as a species? We must help. As the arguments raged on, Dr. Aisha Patel was called to present her latest findings. She stepped up to the podium, her hands shaking slightly. Distinguished leaders, she began, I've made a breakthrough in translating the alien language. They call themselves the Zorthax. Their message isn't just a call for help. It's a desperate plea. She played an audio clip. A strange, melodic voice filled the room. Even though the words were alien, the emotion behind them was clear: fear, hope, and a deep sadness. The room fell silent. The French president wiped a tear from his eye. We cannot ignore this, he said softly. Meanwhile, outside the UN building, thousands of people had gathered. They held signs and chanted, their voices growing louder by the hour. Save the aliens, they shouted. Humanity, unite. News channels from around the world broadcast live from the scene. Reporters interviewed protesters, scientists, and religious leaders. The whole world was watching, waiting for a decision. Back inside, the debate continued. The U.S. president stood up, her face determined. I propose we put it to a vote. But first, let's hear from our top scientists. What would this mission entail? Dr. James Wong, the astrophysicist, stepped forward. He pulled up a holographic display of the solar system. The alien fleet is here, he said, pointing to a spot far beyond Pluto. To reach them, we'd need to build the most advanced spacecraft ever constructed. It would take all of our resources, our best minds, and unprecedented global cooperation. The Brazilian president frowned. And what about the risks? What if these aliens are hostile? Dr. Wong nodded. That's a valid concern. But from what we've decoded of their messages, they seem peaceful. They're explorers, like us. And right now, they're scared and alone in the dark. The room fell silent again as everyone considered his words. Suddenly, a young aide burst into the room. Excuse me, he said, breathless. You need to see this. He turned on the large screen at the front of the hall. It showed live feeds from cities around the world. In New York, London, Tokyo, Mumbai, and more, millions of people had taken to the streets. They were holding candlelight vigils, singing songs of hope and unity. In Times Square, a giant screen displayed a simple message: We are one universe. The sight moved many in the room to tears. The Canadian Prime Minister stood up, her voice choked with emotion. Look at our people. They've made the decision for us. We must help. Secretary-General Okafor nodded. Then let us vote. One by one, the leaders cast their votes. The room held its breath as the final tally was counted. Finally, Okafor stepped back to the podium. The world waited. By a majority vote, she announced, her voice ringing out, "We have decided to launch a rescue mission to save the Zorthax fleet." The room erupted in cheers and applause. Outside, the crowds went wild, hugging and crying tears of joy. Okafor raised her hands for silence. "This will be the greatest undertaking in human history. We will call it Operation Stellar Lifeline. It will require sacrifice, cooperation, and courage from every nation, every person. But together, we will show the universe the true strength of humanity." As the assembly hall filled with determined applause, news of the decision spread across the globe. In every city, every home, people felt a new sense of purpose. For the first time in history, all of humanity was united in a single goal. The greatest adventure in human history was about to begin. The whole world held its breath, ready to reach for the stars. The launch day for Operation Stellar Lifeline had finally arrived. Cape Canaveral was buzzing with activity as the massive rescue ship, aptly named Hope, stood ready on the launch pad. Captain Maria Gonzalez, the mission commander, took one last look at Earth from the ship's viewport. Her heart raced with a mix of excitement and fear. Ready for final checks, she spoke into her comm. "All systems go, Captain," replied her second-in-command, Lieutenant Jamal Khan. As the countdown began, millions around the world watched with bated breath. The engines roared to life, and Hope lifted off, piercing the sky with a trail of fire. "We have liftoff," announced the mission control, and cheers erupted globally. Once in orbit, Hope docked with the pre-assembled interstellar drive. This revolutionary propulsion system, built through unprecedented international cooperation, would allow them to reach the stranded aliens in months instead of years. Initiating interstellar drive, reported the ship's engineer, Dr. Yuki Tanaka. The stars around them blurred as Hope accelerated to incredible speeds. Days turned into weeks as the brave crew journeyed deeper into space than any human had ever gone before. They passed the orbits of Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, marveling at the sight of these planets up close. But their journey was far from smooth. As they approached the Kuiper Belt, alarms blared through the ship. "Asteroid field detected," shouted Lieutenant Khan. "It's not on our charts." Captain Gonzalez gripped her seat. "Evasive maneuvers." "Dr. Tanaka, can we go around?" "Negative, Captain," Yuki replied, her fingers flying over the controls. "The field is too large. We have to go through." What followed was a harrowing dance through space. Maria's expert piloting, combined with the ship's advanced AI, guided them through the deadly field. Asteroids the size of buildings whizzed by, missing them by meters. Just as they thought they were clear, a massive rock loomed ahead. "Brace for impact," Maria yelled. The asteroid clipped their wing, sending the ship into a spin. Warning lights flashed everywhere. "Hull breach in Section C," reported Jamal. "Sealing emergency doors." For tense minutes, the crew worked frantically to stabilize the ship. Finally, they emerged from the asteroid field, battered but alive. As they caught their breath, a new alarm sounded. "Solar flare detected," Yuki announced. "It's massive, and heading our way." The deadly wave of radiation approached rapidly. "Shields to maximum," ordered Maria. "Reroute all non-essential power." The ship shuddered as the solar flare hit. Sparks flew from consoles, and the lights flickered. For a moment, it seemed like they might not make it. But hope lived up to its name. As the flare passed, systems came back online one by one. "We did it," breathed Jamal, hardly believing it himself. Their relief was short-lived. As they entered an unmapped region of space, strange readings appeared on their sensors. "Captain," called out Dr. Emily Chen, the ship's xenobiologist, "I'm detecting signs of artificial structures ahead." The crew gathered around the main viewport. In the distance, they saw a massive space station, unlike anything humans had ever built. Suddenly, A booming voice echoed through their comms. The language was alien, but thanks to their advanced translation software, they understood the message. Unidentified vessel, you are entering restricted space. State your purpose or be destroyed. The crew exchanged nervous glances. This was an unexpected complication. Open a channel, Maria commanded. Taking a deep breath, she spoke clearly. This is Captain Maria Gonzalez of the Earth ship Hope. We are on a peaceful mission to rescue a stranded fleet. There was a long pause. Then, your mission is irrelevant. Turn back now, or face the consequences. Maria stood firm. We've come too far to turn back now. The lives of thousands depend on us. Please, let us pass. Another pause. Then, without warning, energy beams shot out from the space station, narrowly missing Hope. Evasive action, shouted Maria. The ship swerved, barely avoiding another volley. As Hope bobbed and weaved through the barrage, Jamal worked furiously at his console. Captain, I've analyzed their weapon signatures. There's a pattern to their firing sequence. If we time it right, we might be able to slip past their defenses. Marion nodded grimly. Do it. What followed was a daring dance through space. Hope twisted and turned, using the very energy beams meant to destroy them as cover. With each maneuver, they inched closer to their goal. Finally, with a burst of speed, they shot past the space station's range. As the alien structure faded behind them, the crew let out a collective sigh of relief. They had faced incredible odds and emerged victorious. Maria looked at her brave team, her eyes shining with pride. Well done, everyone. But remember, our real mission is still ahead. Let's go save those aliens. With renewed determination, Hope continued its journey through the stars, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in their quest to save the stranded alien fleet. After weeks of intense travel through the cosmos, the Earth ship Hope finally approached the location of the stranded alien fleet. The crew's excitement was palpable as they prepared for humanity's first official contact with an alien species. Captain Maria Gonzalez stood at the bridge, her heart racing. There they are, she whispered, pointing at 5 massive ships that appeared on their view screen. The alien vessels were unlike anything they had ever seen. They gleamed with an iridescent sheen, their hulls adorned with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change. They're beautiful, breathed Dr. Emily Chen, the xenobiologist. And huge, added Lieutenant Jamal Khan. Each one must be at least 10 times the size of our ship. Captain Gonzalez took a deep breath. All right, team. This is what we've trained for. Let's make Earth proud. Open a communication channel. As Jamal worked on establishing contact, the crew held their breath. Suddenly, a burst of static filled the air, followed by a series of melodic tones. Dr. Chen's eyes widened. That's them. Quick, run it through the universal translator. After a few tense moments, words began to form amidst the alien sounds. Unknown vessel, came a voice, somehow both melodious and gravelly. Identify yourselves. Maria stepped forward. This is Captain Maria Gonzalez of the Earth ship Hope. We've come in response to your distress signal. We're here to help. There was a long pause. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Had they said something wrong? Finally, the alien voice returned. Earth ship, you have traveled from the 3rd planet of the Yellow Star. That's correct, Maria confirmed. We received your distress call and came as fast as we could. Another pause. Then, to everyone's surprise, a sound that could only be described as laughter came through the speakers. Forgive us, the alien voice said, still chuckling. But we find it hard to believe that a species as young as yours could have mastered interstellar travel. Maria felt a spark of pride. We may be young, but we're full of surprises. Perhaps we could meet face to face and show you what we're capable of. The alien agreed, and soon, Hope was docking with the largest of the alien ships. As the airlock cycled, Captain Gonzalez, Dr. Chen, and Lieutenant Khan prepared to step onto the alien vessel. The door hissed open, revealing a sight that took their breath away. 3 tall, slender beings stood before them. Their skin shimmered like the surface of their ships, and their eyes, 4 on each face, blinked in synchronization. Tentacle-like appendages waved gently from their sides. Maria stepped forward, hand outstretched in the universal gesture of peace. "Greetings, I'm Captain Gonzalez. We come in peace and friendship." The central alien extended a tentacle, gently wrapping it around Maria's hand. "I am Zorthal, High Commander of the Zorthax fleet. We welcome you, though we are confused by your presence." As they talked, misunderstandings quickly arose. The Zorthax couldn't comprehend how a species they considered primitive could have developed such advanced technology so quickly. "But how did you achieve faster-than-light travel?" Zorthal asked, all 4 eyes blinking rapidly. "Our records show your kind were still using combustion engines mere centuries ago." Jamal grinned. "We're quick learners and highly motivated, especially when it comes to helping others." The aliens exchanged looks of surprise. "You truly came all this way, just to help us?" Another alien, introduced as Zorvex, asked incredulously. "Of course," Emily said. "That's what neighbors do." This concept seemed to baffle the Zorthax. They huddled together, speaking in rapid, musical tones. Finally, Zorthal turned back to the humans. "We may have misjudged your species. Perhaps you are more advanced than we realized. Not technologically, but morally." Maria smiled. "We're just glad we made it in time. Now, how can we help get your fleet back up and running?" As the 2 groups began to discuss the repairs needed, a new understanding began to form. The Zorthax were impressed by the humans' ingenuity and determination, while the humans were in awe of the aliens' advanced technology. What had started as a rescue mission was quickly turning into a cultural exchange, with both species learning from each other. As they worked together, laughter and conversation filled the alien ship, bridging the gap between 2 vastly different civilizations. The first contact had been made, and it was clear that this was just the beginning of a fascinating journey for both humanity and the Zorthax. As the initial excitement of first contact settled, the real work began. The human crew of Hope and the Zorthax engineers gathered in the main hangar of the alien flagship to assess the damage and plan the repairs. Captain Maria Gonzalez stood before a holographic display of the Zorthax fleet, her brow furrowed in concentration. "So, the main problem is with your propulsion systems." Zorthal nodded, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "Yes, our quantum fold drives overloaded during our last jump. We've been drifting ever since." Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the human engineer, stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "Quantum fold drives. Fascinating. We've only theorized about such technology." Zorvex, the Zorthax chief engineer, looked at Yuki with surprise. "You mean you traveled all this way without quantum technology?" "How?" Jamal grinned. "Good old human ingenuity. We jerry-rigged a fusion drive with a gravity sling. Gets the job done, even if it's not as elegant as your tech." The Zorthax exchanged looks of astonishment. They were beginning to realize that these humans were far more resourceful than they had initially thought. As the teams began work on the repairs, they faced numerous challenges. The Zorthax technology was far advanced, and much of it was incompatible with human tools. In one section of the ship, Yuki struggled to interface her tablet with the alien systems. "It's no use," she sighed. "Our tech just isn't compatible." But Maria wasn't ready to give up. "Then we'll have to get creative. What if we build an adapter? Something to bridge the gap between our technology and theirs." Yuki's eyes lit up. That could work. "Jamal, I'll need your help with the coding." As the humans worked, the Zorthax watched in amazement. They had never seen a species adapt so quickly to new challenges. In another part of the ship, Dr. Emily Chen worked alongside Zorlex, the Zorthax biologist, to repair the life support systems. The alien technology used living organisms as part of its filtration process, something entirely new to human science. "This is incredible," Emily marveled, examining a glowing plant-like organism. "It's processing carbon dioxide more efficiently than anything we have on Earth." Zorlex tilted his head curiously. "You mean you don't use bioadaptive systems in your ships?" Emily shook her head. "Not like this. But I can already think of a dozen ways this could revolutionize our life support systems back home." As they worked, the two species began to learn from each other. The humans shared their knack for improvisation and creative problem-solving, while the Zorthax taught them about their advanced, biointegrated technology. Days turned into weeks as the repairs continued. The work was hard, but there were moments of lightness too. Cultural misunderstandings often led to laughter on both sides. One day, Jamal offered a Zorthax engineer a high five after solving a particularly tricky problem. The alien, not understanding the gesture, stared at Jamal's raised hand in confusion before gently patting it with a tentacle. The resulting laughter echoed through the ship's corridors. As the repairs neared completion, both humans and Zorthax gathered in the main hangar for a final systems check. Captain Gonzalez stood next to Zorthal, both looking at the holographic display of the fleet. "All systems are green," Yuki announced, her face beaming with pride. "The quantum fold drives are online and stable." A cheer went up from both humans and aliens. They had done it. Against all odds, they had repaired the massive alien fleet using a combination of advanced Zorthax technology and human ingenuity. Zorthal turned to Maria, his eyes blinking rapidly, and what the humans had learned was a sign of strong emotion. "We cannot thank you enough, Captain Gonzalez. Your crew has saved not just our lives, but our entire mission of exploration." Maria smiled. "That's what neighbors do, remember. Besides, we've learned so much from you. This mission has advanced our science by decades, if not centuries." As the two leaders shook hands, or rather, hand and tentacle, there was a sense that this was more than just a successful repair job. It was the beginning of a beautiful friendship between two species from different corners of the galaxy. The great repair was complete, but the adventure was far from over. As both humans and Zorthax looked to the stars, they knew that together, they could face any challenge the universe might throw their way. The mood aboard the newly repaired Zorthax fleet was jubilant. Humans and aliens alike were celebrating their successful collaboration. Captain Maria Gonzalez and High Commander Zorthal stood on the bridge of the Zorthax flagship, watching the stars through the vast view screen. "Your people have done the impossible, Captain," Zorthal said, his four eyes blinking in admiration. "We are forever in your debt." Maria smiled, about to respond, when suddenly alarms blared throughout the ship. Lieutenant Jamal Khan rushed to his console, his fingers flying over the alien controls he had only recently learned to use. "Captain, Commander," he shouted, "we're detecting a massive object approaching at high speed." The view screen shifted, showing a swarm of rocky bodies hurtling towards them. It wasn't just a few asteroids, it was an entire field, millions of space rocks ranging from the size of pebbles to small moons. "By the stars," Zorthal gasped, "it's the Krithax cluster. Our long-range sensors must have been damaged in the accident. We didn't see it coming." Dr. Yuki Tanaka, who had been monitoring the ship's systems, spoke up. "The repairs are complete, but we haven't had time to test the quantum fold drives under stress. A jump now could be risky." Maria's mind raced. They couldn't stay and face the asteroid field. Even with the advanced Zorthax shields, the smaller ships wouldn't survive the impact. But jumping without proper testing could strand them in unknown space, or worse. "We need options, people," Maria called out. "Zorthal, what about your weapon systems? Can we blast a path through?" The alien commander shook his head. "Our energy cannons could handle some of the smaller rocks, but anything large would simply shatter into more projectiles. We'd be making the problem worse." As the asteroid field loomed closer, Tension on the bridge reached a fever pitch. Humans and Zorthax alike worked feverishly at their stations, searching for a solution. Suddenly, Dr. Emily Chen, who had been quietly working at a terminal, jumped up. "I have an idea. It's crazy, but it might work." All eyes turned to the xenobiologist. "During the repairs, I studied the Zorthax's bioadaptive systems. What if we could use them to create a temporary shield?" "Explain," Maria said, hope kindling in her eyes. Emily spoke quickly. "The life support systems use organisms that can rapidly adapt to environmental changes. If we could release a massive amount of them into space ahead of us, they might be able to form a living barrier." Zorlex, the Zorthax biologist, chittered excitedly. "Yes, the Gormlek organisms. In large numbers, they naturally form protective clusters. But we've never attempted anything on this scale before." "We don't have a choice," Maria said firmly. "It's our best shot." "Zorthal, can your ships generate enough of these organisms in time?" The alien commander nodded. "We can, but it will take all of our biofabrication capabilities. We'll be defenseless until the barrier forms." "Then we'll have to buy you some time," Maria said. She turned to her crew. "Jamal, Yuki, we're going to use hope as a shield. Position us between the Zorthax ships and the asteroid field." The human crew looked shocked but didn't hesitate. They rushed to their stations, preparing for the dangerous maneuver. As Hope moved into position, the Zorthax ships began releasing a cloud of glowing, plant-like organisms into space. The tiny life forms spread out, gradually forming a shimmering curtain between the fleet and the oncoming asteroids. The first wave of space rocks hit Hope's shields. The ship shuddered under the impact. "Shields at 80%. Jamal called out. 70%. "We can't take much more of this." Maria gripped her chair, watching anxiously as the biobarrier slowly grew. "Hold on, just a little longer." Just as Hope's shields were about to fail, the biobarrier solidified. The glowing organisms knit together, forming a vast, living shield. Asteroids smashed against it, but instead of breaking through, they were absorbed, their energy and matter used to strengthen the barrier. A cheer went up from both human and Zorthax crews. They had done it. The impossible plan had worked. As the asteroid field passed harmlessly around them, Maria turned to her alien counterpart. "I think we make a pretty good team, Commander." Zorthal's eyes blinked rapidly in agreement. "Indeed, Captain. It seems that together, our species can overcome any challenge the universe throws our way." As the danger passed and the crews began to relax, both humans and Zorthax knew that this shared trial had forged a bond between their species that would last for generations to come. The unexpected threat had turned into an opportunity for both races to showcase their unique strengths and their incredible potential when working together. As the last of the asteroid field drifted past, a sense of calm settled over the combined human and Zorthax fleet. The immediate danger had passed, and now both species found themselves at a crossroads of history. Captain Maria Gonzalez stood on the bridge of the Zorthax flagship, gazing out at the stars. Her crew, Jamal, Yuki, and Emily, stood beside her, their faces a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. High Commander Zorthal approached, his tentacles waving gently. "Captain Gonzalez," he began, his translator conveying a tone of deep respect. "Your people have not only saved us, but have shown courage and ingenuity beyond our wildest expectations." Maria smiled, feeling a swell of pride for her team and her species. "Thank you, Commander. But we couldn't have done it without your advanced technology and your people's willingness to work with us." Zorvex, the Zorthax engineer, chimed in. "Indeed, the way your Dr. Tanaka adapted our quantum systems was nothing short of brilliant. We've been using this technology for centuries, yet she found ways to improve it in mere weeks." Yuki blushed at the praise. "I just applied some human problem solving. Your tech gave me plenty to work with." As they talked, a message came through from Earth. The face of the United Nations Secretary General appeared on the main screen, her eyes wide with wonder at the sight of the Zorthax. "Captain Gonzalez," she said, "we've received your reports. The whole world is celebrating their success. And to our new friends," she nodded towards Zorthal, "we extend the hand of friendship from all of humanity." Zorthal stepped forward, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in what the humans now recognized as excitement. "Esteemed leader of Earth, we are honored. Your people have proven themselves to be not only technologically capable, but also compassionate and brave. The Zorthax Council has made a decision." He paused, building anticipation. "We would like to formally offer Earth an alliance with the Zorthax Empire. We believe that together, our species could achieve greatness beyond imagining." A hush fell over both the bridge and the UN assembly visible on the screen. This was more than anyone had dared to hope for when the mission began. The Secretary General's voice shook slightly as she responded. We would be honored, Commander Zorthal. This is a historic moment for both our peoples." As the politicians began to discuss the details, Maria turned to her crew. "Well, team, I'd say we did a pretty good job." Jamal grinned. "Just another day of the office, right, Captain? Save some aliens, form a galactic alliance, all in a day's work." Everyone laughed, the tension of the past weeks finally breaking. Over the next few days, as the Zorthax prepared their ships for the journey home, there was a flurry of activity. Scientists from both species exchanged knowledge, with humans learning about advanced quantum mechanics and bioengineering, while the Zorthax marveled at human adaptability and creative problem-solving. On the eve of their departure, a grand ceremony was held in the Zorthax flagship's main hall. Humans and aliens mingled, sharing stories and dreams of future collaborations. Captain Gonzalez found herself standing next to Commander Zorthal, watching their crews interact. "You know," Maria said, "when we first picked up your distress signal, we never imagined it would lead to this." Zorthal's tentacles waved in agreement. "Indeed, we thought we were facing our end, stranded in unknown space. Instead, we found not just saviors, but friends." As they watched, Dr. Chen was excitedly explaining the concept of pizza to a group of fascinated Zorthax, while nearby, Jamal was learning a complex alien game that seemed to involve holographic shapes and mathematical probabilities. "I think this is just the beginning," Maria said, smiling. "Imagine what we could achieve together, exploring the galaxy, solving its mysteries, and facing its challenges united." Zorthal added, "Our species are stronger together than we ever were apart." As the ceremony wound down, the crew of Hope prepared to return to their ship for the journey home. They exchanged heartfelt goodbyes with their new alien friends, promising to stay in touch. Back on Hope's bridge, as Earth grew larger in their view screen, Maria looked at her crew. "Well, team, ready to be heroes?" Emily laughed. "I think I prefer being an explorer, Captain. A hero's work is done, but an explorer's journey never ends." As they approached Earth, ships from every nation rose to meet them, forming an honor guard. The crew of Hope had left as brave rescuers. They returned as ambassadors of a new galactic age. Humanity had reached for the stars and found not just new friends, but a new destiny. The adventure was just beginning.